I was kicked out as a teenager for false rumors my brother spread. Years later my parents see my success and, is it possible for your own family to ruin your life with just one lie? Imagine being kicked out of your home as a teenager because of rumors spread by your own brother. That's what happened to me. I was only 16 when my life flipped upside down. I grew up in a small town in Montana. We lived in a house on the outskirts of Bozeman, a typical 3-bedroom cottage for our family. My mom, Linda, worked as a cashier at a supermarket, and my dad, John, was a truck driver. They always tried to give Michael and me the best they could, even though it wasn't much. Michael, who was 3 years older than me, was the family favorite. My parents treated him like the perfect son, so when I started doing better than him in school and sports, he couldn't handle it. When I won the school running competition in 9th grade, it was the final straw for him. I never thought my achievements would trigger such jealousy. Shortly after that, Michael started spreading rumors about me. He told my parents that I was stealing money from their wallets and sneaking out at night to hang out with some bad crowd. I could see the way their looks changed when I came home from school. They started avoiding conversations, and when they did talk to me, it was cold and distant. I tried to talk to them, explain that it was all lies, but they wouldn't listen. One night changed everything. It was late August 2010. I came home after practice and found a family meeting in the kitchen. My dad sat there, arms on the table, looking grim, while my mom was quietly crying. They told me they couldn't take having me under their roof anymore. My dad threw $50 on the table and said, "It's time for you to go. We can't trust you after everything you've done." They didn't listen to me, they believed Michael's lies, and he wasn't even home at the time. I took those $50 and walked out. That night, I felt like everything I knew was gone. I was shattered. They kicked me out over a lie, and I was broken. I had nowhere to go. No plan, no money, no support. I was alone in a world that suddenly felt hostile. I spent that night on a bench in a nearby park, trying to figure out how to keep my sanity and where to go next. Every night, lying under the open sky, I kept asking myself, how did this happen? How did I end up here? Now that I'd been kicked out, my former dreams, college, a sports scholarship, a stable future, were crumbling to dust. It felt like the world was constantly breaking me. And I didn't know how much longer I could carry this burden. Reddit users comments, Truthseeker84 "This is horrible. I can't believe your parents just turned their backs on you because of your brother's lies. Stay strong, life can be so unfair sometimes." Lost Soul 77 "I was kicked out under similar circumstances when my brother accused me of stealing. It hurts so much when the people closest to you don't believe you. Just know you're not alone." Road to Recovery "I never understood how a family can blindly trust one person while ignoring another. I hope you found a way forward. Wishing you strength and patience. Just another survivor. What you're describing is a nightmare. But you'll make it. I went through something similar, and now I'm rebuilding my life from scratch." After that night on the bench in the Bozeman Park, I felt like life was really starting to break me. The next few days were a real test. I had no home, no food, no stability. I was trying to figure out what to do next. The streets of my hometown, which once felt safe and familiar, turned into a place of danger and despair. I was homeless. It was August 2010, and I spent an entire week wandering aimlessly. One morning, as I sat by the fountain in the main square, thinking about how to make a few bucks for food, I saw Sarah. She had been my friend since 8th grade, and honestly, I didn't know how she'd react when she found out I'd been kicked out. As she approached me, I felt miserable. Sarah immediately noticed something was wrong. "What happened, Alex?" Her voice was soft but concerned. I couldn't hold it in. I told her everything, about Michael, my parents, their decision, and how I ended up on the street. She stayed quiet for a few minutes, listening. Then she said exactly what I needed to hear: "You're not alone. I'll help you." Sarah offered me a place to stay for a few days at her house. Her family was small but cozy. Her mom worked as a nurse, and her dad was an engineer. They knew me well and let me stay in their guest house. It was a temporary solution, but at that moment, it saved me from total despair. Even with a temporary roof over my head, I knew I couldn't stay there forever. So I started looking for odd jobs. Every day, I walked around town, asking at cafes, stores, warehouses, anywhere that might need extra hands. Nobody was in a hurry to hire a 16-year-old with no experience, but I didn't give up. One day, I got my first opportunity, a small job at the market, helping unload goods and cleaning up the area after closing. They only paid me $5 an hour, but back then, it was a huge help. Those few hours a day at least kept me from feeling constantly hungry. But along with physical exhaustion, I was overwhelmed by fear of the future. What would happen next? I didn't know how long I could live like this. Every day felt like an endless struggle. Hunger was a constant reminder, and even when I could eat, I felt like it was just a temporary fix. I had no guarantees for tomorrow. The worst part was the feeling that I no longer belonged to anyone, not even my own family. Part of me wanted to prove to them that I could survive, but another part just wanted to give up. I felt deep pain and confusion because the people I loved the most had turned their backs on me. My family believed a lie, and it tore me apart from the inside. Reddit users' comments: "Hard times 45, that sounds familiar." When I got kicked out, I couldn't find a job for a long time either. But the fact that Sarah supported you, that's a real gift. Hang in there, man. Forgotten Son 92, there's nothing scarier than being rejected by your own family. I had to go through that too. Be grateful you've got friends who can help. I had support as well, and it saved me. Life Survivor 23, each new day is a small victory. $5 an hour might not seem like much, but in times like this, it's a huge step forward. Just don't give up. Saving Grace 11, you're so strong for not giving up right at the start. It seems like you have a chance to find a way out, even though the situation looks hopeless. Wishing you strength and luck. 6 months after being kicked out, I was still fighting to survive. I was living in Sarah's family guest house, working at the market for $5 an hour, trying to save every cent. It was a brutal test that was eating me up inside. The uncertainty and constant struggle fueled my fear of the future. Then one day at the market, I met someone who changed everything. It happened in early February 2011. I was unloading boxes of vegetables when a middle-aged man approached me. His name was Mr. Carter. He owned a small repair business in Bozeman that specialized in fixing electronics and home systems. We started talking, and he asked if I was interested in a stable job. "You look hardworking. I've got a spot in the company for young hands. It's not a big job, but if you're ready, I'll take you on for a trial period," he said. This offer was a chance for something more. Mr. Carter offered me a job at minimum wage, $7.25 an hour. I couldn't believe that someone saw me as a potential employee and gave me a chance. My schedule was simple: Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The job involved small tasks like unloading goods, helping around the office, and basic repairs. But it was my chance. I gave it my all, working hard and staying late every evening to learn from the more experienced workers. I needed to prove to myself that I could do more. At the same time, I kept having flashbacks to my childhood. I remembered how my father always praised Michael for any achievement, no matter how small. Meanwhile, I always felt that my efforts went unnoticed. When I got my first school award, my father only said, "Well, not bad," while Michael was praised for even the smallest things. I had always craved their approval, but now I realized I no longer needed it. I had to prove this only to myself. The first few months with Mr. Carter were tough. I kept learning through my mistakes, but I finally felt like I had control over my life. I wasn't just working for the paycheck, it was a way to regain my dignity. I started feeling confident that I could build my future on my own, and that was a completely new feeling. Reddit users comments, "Hopeful struggler, it's awesome that you found a chance and didn't give up. Sometimes in life, everything depends on a random encounter. Mr. Carter seems like a good guy, second chance life. I had a similar story with parents who always favored my brother. I hope you find inner peace and stop feeling the need to prove yourself to others." Blue Collar Joe 77, $7.25 an hour isn't much, but it's a step towards something bigger. I started with minimum wage too, and now I manage a crew. Hang in there, you're on the right path. Lost and Found 24, your determination is impressive. You should never give up, even when everyone is against you. I'm sure there are many achievements ahead for you. It's been 5 years since I was kicked out of my home. It was August 2016, and my life looked completely different. After working for Mr. Carter, I began seriously thinking about starting my own business. I'd always loved electronics, so I decided to take a risk. I started my own small electronics repair business in Bozeman. The starting capital was minimal, around $2,000 that I had saved over 2 years of hard work. But month by month, the business began to grow. I started by renting a small workshop in the city center, at 501 Main Street. The first thing I felt was responsibility. Now everything depended only on me. But gradually, clients started coming in. By the end of 2015, I had 3 employees and a monthly revenue of about $10,000. I had built this with my own hands, and I was truly proud of myself. One day in September 2016, I got a phone call from my mother. It was an unexpected call. We hadn't been in touch over the years, and I assumed they had forgotten about me. She said that she and my father wanted to meet and talk. Their voices sounded anxious, almost remorseful. I was shocked, but I decided to go to the meeting. We agreed to meet at a cafe where we used to have family dinners when I was a child. When I arrived, they were already waiting. My mother looked older than I remembered, and my father was silent and tense. They started the conversation by apologizing for what had happened 5 years ago. Linda explained that Michael had eventually confessed to lying. He admitted that he had spread false rumors to get their attention and that I had never done what they accused me of. My parents sat before me, acknowledging their mistakes and asking for forgiveness. It was a moment I hadn't expected. I listened to them, and inside, there was a struggle. Part of me wanted to blame them for ruining my childhood, but another part just felt relieved. I decided that revenge wouldn't make me happier. I forgave them. But I explained that I couldn't return to their lives. My life had taken a different path, and I no longer sought their attention or approval. They understood. We parted calmly, and I left, feeling free. It was my choice, and it made me stronger. Conclusion: if you ask me whether I could have succeeded without being kicked out, I'm not sure. That pain and struggle became the catalyst for my growth. I learned independence, patience, and perseverance. I became someone I'm proud of. So despite all the pain, I'm grateful for the experience. Now I understand that success isn't something someone else can give you or approve of. It's something you build yourself, no matter the circumstances. And although I forgave my parents, I chose to stay distant. My life belongs to me now. Have you ever felt betrayed by those closest to you? Share your story in the comments and let me know what you think of my decision. Maybe it will lead you to reflect on your own choices. Reddit users' comments: forgiven past 99, your strength and ability to forgive are impressive. Not everyone could do that. I feel for you since I went through something similar. Best of luck moving forward. Independence rocks. I also forgave my parents after a long absence. It's tough, but it gives you freedom. The main thing is to live your own life and build it the way you want, overcome and grow. Your decision to stay distant is very mature. Forgiving doesn't mean going back to a toxic environment. You did the right thing, lost and loved again. Your story is inspiring. I'm in a similar situation with my family right now but haven't been brave enough to step away. Thanks for sharing, it really matters.